What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to episode 2 of the AST call-in show. And I got to tell you guys, I was listening to them this morning just briefly. I just scanned them real fast to make sure that you could understand them and that it's not somebody just going off on a rant, yelling every curse word in the book and maybe using some other language that we do not accept or appreciate on a family-friendly show like All Steelers Talk. But I am thrilled to be here, super excited for round 2, episode 2 of the AST call-in show, and I have to express my gratitude and appreciation to each and every single one of you guys for calling in, becoming members, talking to me, and to be honest, following me and Nick and everybody else through this adventure because it is a blast and we love what we do. We got 12, I believe, maybe 13 phone calls to go through today and plenty to talk about before we go into tonight, where we will live stream once again. I'm sure recap what we talked about today. And man, the headlines are already flying in for a regular showing of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to find us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcasts. Find all of my written work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. I head down to the NFL Combine on Monday, which means that there's going to be plenty to talk about, a ton of headlines, and hopefully a lot of insight that I'm able to provide to you guys from Indianapolis, Indiana, one of my favorite cities in the world. Before I head there, let's do this. We'll dive into them, and we're getting started now. AST Call-In Show, episode 2. Let's get it.
Hey, Noah. You're going to have to talk me off the ledge, brother. I'm having a real hard time being optimistic. You need to give me a reason to be optimistic about our Steelers.
Yep.
We all know the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results. I mean, who sits around in a room, an NFL room, for 3 years watching what Matt Canada's doing and think, this is fine, this is good, and yet here we are, doing it again, playing it back again. When are they going to change? I mean, I'm sitting around now waiting for Tomlin's 3-year extension to be up, hoping that brings some change. But I just need you to talk me off the ledge. Talk me off the ledge.
I appreciate you, my man. And look it. Things are going to be okay. I hear the frustration and I understand it. I really do. The Pittsburgh Steelers have changed very little in the last few years. It took forever to finally make that change. And from what I've been told, Mike Tomlin took credit for that, but that was Art Rooney. That was Rooney who finally said, look it, dude, you gotta fire him. Matt Canada's got to go. This offense is a laughing stock of the NFL. It is the least organized offense in the entire league that the league has seen in a long time. I hear you. I'll say this. I don't know if anything's going to change over the next 3 years. It's brutal to sit here and say that you might have to wait until way longer from that 3-year extension to expire before actual change takes place. There is some hope. The hope is this. The Pittsburgh Steelers will hopefully have a young quarterback in Justin Fields that they could sculpt. They will hopefully give more to Arthur Smith in year 2, and I get it. People are very cautious about that and very worried about what that means for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm more so hopeful. I'm hopeful that with a real game plan, with a real quarterback situation, that he does not have to flip-flop between all season long, that Arthur Smith can make something happen, that he could turn things around with a real running game instead of Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren, who are great, but they aren't those superstars that the Steelers needed, that all these running game or running coaches, running mindsets have in mind when it comes to who's going to lead the pack and the offense. There are reasons to be optimistic that some change could happen. I don't know if it's mass change. I don't know if it's change enough. I don't know if the Steelers will ever make change enough. And to be honest, it all comes down to Mike Tomlin and what he's willing to adjust and give up. Right now, that's not much. His stubbornness continues to hurt him more than help him. You got to hope that this is an offseason where maybe a bunch of change isn't happening, but Mike Tomlin's mentality is. We'll see what happens. I appreciate it. I wish I could sit here and talk you off the ledge. I don't know if I could. Not where we stand right now. But there are reasons for hope. There are reasons to believe that things will get better. You got to just hope that those reasons play out.
Hey, Noah, this is Ernie Jones. I got a question. Why is it taking so long for the Pittsburgh Steelers to start to sign Justin Fields? Because all the other options are not as good. And do you hear this guy, Jack Sperry, talking about how we should get Matthew Stafford and all these other old quarterbacks? So I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Hey, I appreciate you. And look, I think the Justin Fields situation is twofold. It goes both ways. It is the Pittsburgh Steelers probably waiting a little bit too long before they start diving into negotiations. And then at the other side of this, it's Justin Fields probably having some urge to test the market. That him and his agency are not sitting around saying the Steelers are our only option, and it's the only option that we're going to have. I bet it goes both ways. I don't think the Steelers have engaged in these negotiations yet, but I, at the same time, do not feel that Justin Fields is real gung-ho sitting around waiting for those negotiations to begin. I think he wants to see, look at it, the Steelers would be nice, would be a comfortable situation, would love to come back to an offense that I already know and a coaching staff that believes in me. But at the same time, are the Jets going to offer me a boatload more money and a better opportunity? Who knows? We'll find out. But I think it goes both ways. I think it's the Steelers, and I also think it's Justin Fields, who neither side has really engaged the way that you need them to really come to a commitment before the NFL Combine, which I thought was going to be like the mark. Now it looks like free agency.
Hey, Nick, Noah, how y'all doing? Just wanted to say I appreciate y'all, and I want to give a shout out to the man, the myth, the legend, the great Steelers quarterback, Duck Hodges. But I think he might have been a better punter because my man outkicked his coverage. Congratulations, Duck, Laney. Hope you all have a great life together. And Noah, Nick, keep doing what you're doing. Appreciate you.
Shout out Duck Hodges, man. Shout out Duck Hodges. In the words of Duck Hodges himself, Mike Tomlin always told me that I was going to win in life. Shout out Duck Hodges. Shout out Laney Wilson. Wish them nothing but the best.
Noah, not going to sugarcoat it, Struckbine, and Nick, the truth bomb Belsky. Good morning from the Alamo City, boys. Here we are in another Groundhog Day situation. All I want to know is, when did mediocrity become the standard?
Yep.
I'm surrounded by delusional Cowboy fans every day, and my fear grows daily that we're going to fall into that trap. The main difference between us and them is that the Steelers owner is not a reality TV show host.
True.
But let me ask you guys, is there such a thing as an owner being too hands-off? Are the Rooneys loyal to a fault? And what's it going to take for them to make a move? Anyways, look forward to hearing from you boys. From y'all to Yins, much love, and God bless Cole Holcomb.
Shout out Cole Holcomb, man. Wow, we are getting things kicking hot this morning. This is awesome. Appreciate you guys. That's a great question. That is a fantastic question, actually. Is there the possibility that an owner can be too hands-off? I think it could be. I think there is a possibility that holds some truth. That Art Rooney might be too little involved when at times, when he does make the move, when he does make the call, he makes the right call. I mean, he made the Matt Canada call. We just talked about that 2 minutes ago. That was the right call. Everybody knew that was the right call. But that call should have happened weeks ago, a year ago, to be honest with you. And he had some hands in bringing back Matt Canada, but I'm sure he wasn't super thrilled about that idea. I believe he also had some hands in bringing on Arthur Smith. I do believe that. I'll say this. If it's up to Art Rooney, from what I hear, Russell Wilson will be the Steelers quarterback in 2025. And I don't know if I'm thrilled about that situation. I don't know how true that is. I haven't reported it. Therefore, I don't hold it to like the highest standard, but it is what I have heard in conversations and talks and just rumbles throughout Steelers land here. you got to wonder what decisions Art Rooney could make and where that line is to say, okay, now you're Jerry Jones. Oh, okay, now you're Art Rooney. Where is the happy medium? I think the best thing to do is to stay away from those decisions. But I also think you need a head coach and a GM in place that make those decisions and make them well. I don't think the Steelers have the head coach to make those decisions well right now. Hopefully Omar Khan does, but I don't think Omar Khan holds any rank over Mike Tomlin where they currently sit here. And because of that, that's what the problem is there is no Howie Roseman, then Nick Sirianni. It is Mike Tomlin, Omar Khan, Andy Weidel. That's what's going on here. So it's almost to a fault that Mike Tomlin has too much control. I think that could be the bigger issue here.
This is Dale Toole. Noah, how are you doing?
Dale, how's it going, man?
Just wanted to express my concerns about Justin Fields. Why are they waiting till free agency? Is that his doing or ours? If we go with an Aaron Rodgers, I will be put on suicide watch for the whole season next year. Thank you.
Oh, my gosh. All right. Everybody needs to be talked off a ledge. Everybody needs to be, just brought back and calm down a little bit. Look, Aaron Rodgers isn't the worst decision in the whole world. He's got some little bit of upside. It's not a lot. I understand it. It comes with way more concern than it does optimism. But he's still Aaron Rodgers. He's still Hall of Famer, and it's still the Jets at the end of the day. It's still the Jets. You got to always understand that at the end of the day, it's still the Jets. And while, it's Aaron Rodgers, it's still the Jets. And that comes with a lot of it's probably not going to work out. That's what it comes with. I think everything's going to be okay. I still believe Justin Fields is going to end up the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback. That could change, but where we sit here currently, I still believe that is the outcome. They're taking much longer than I anticipated. They're taking much longer than they need to take. I agree with both of those, but I also think that it's going to work out just fine for the Steelers right now. They're weighing all their options. It's a nonsense move. It doesn't make any sense to do that, but that's what they're doing. I still think Justin Fields is going to be the guy by the end of all this. And because of that, everything is going to be okay. If he plays well, you have to also understand that Justin Fields is a risk. He's the best risk you can take, but he's a risk. I still think he's going to work out. I still think he's going to be the quarterback in Pittsburgh.
So my question was going to revolve around the locker room and how it seems to consistently kind of fall apart at the end of the season, whether that's this past season with the defense or whenever Matt Canada was in charge or Antonio Brown and, all that stuff. And I want to know, what do you think is primarily responsible for that? And I know that they tend to coincide with losing. Do you think that's just the main and only factor to it, or is there other aspects to it? And then if this is a Mike Tomlin issue, do you think that...
Might have lost you there. That's all right. I do think it has a little bit to do with Mike Tomlin. I think it's got maybe a lot to do with Mike Tomlin, but I think it's twofold. I think the defense is coached in a way where they are allowed to express frustrations because they're all somewhat leaders and veterans on that team. I think on the other side of it, Mike Tomlin lets guys like George Pickens get away with everything and anything with almost no repercussions. And that plays a really massive role in how players respect authority in the Pittsburgh Steelers locker room. I think the Steelers locker room overall is super dramatic. It's actually crazy how drama-filled the Pittsburgh Steelers are compared to most other teams in the NFL. I mean, you look at the Baltimore Ravens are a great example. There's no drama in Baltimore, ever. The Pittsburgh Steelers are like 90% drama. On the other side of that, though, there are a lot of guys that, play the role and are super comfortable and, they have character, but it's not bad character and they stick to football. And there are a lot of those guys in the Steelers locker room. It seems like there's a couple that are super loud, and the Steelers always have those super loud guys. I mean, the reason that the defense not playing well blew up was simply because, the defense wasn't playing well and everybody was calling it out and they were making it known this is ridiculous. We are better than this. it's kind of pissing us off. I don't think that was necessarily like a jab or a call out or a dramatic thing. I think it was very honest analysis to spread to the fans to say, look, we're equally as pissed off as you are. We are not as happy. We are not happy with our performances to date and how we're ending the season. There's the other side of it, though, that like the George Pickens things, the quarterback situations, like the coaching staffs, like all of that constantly blows up. I think that comes down to a little bit of Tomlin. Different guys get coached differently and get held to different standards in Pittsburgh. And that's the craziest thing. Like George Pickens shows up late to work for numerous weeks, barely shows up in time for the Kansas City Chiefs game. And Mike Tomlin doesn't remember that happened. Nonsense. Mike Tomlin remembers everything. He knows exactly what everybody was talking about. But the problem is that he wasn't going to do anything because he understood that the season was on the line and the Steelers didn't have another wide receiver to lean on. They needed George Pickens. That's what happens. So I do think it's a little bit of Tomlin. I also just think that every team talks a little bit. Some things are dramatic. Some things are just like, the defense is a prime example here. It's almost just like agreeing with the fan base to just let them know or to let you guys know from them, we're not happy about the situation. We are equally as angry at ourselves as you guys are at us. I think there's two sides to the story.
Hey, Noah. So I had a question regarding the team culture that I was hoping you could answer here.
Back to back.
So to me, it seems that this team has ended a lot of the recent seasons with locker room issues. There was a lot of hostility and frustration, it felt like, on the defense this year. You got the Antonio Brown stuff. Last year, everybody wanted Matt Canada gone, excuse me. And I just wanted to know, what do you think the primary cause for these issues that seem to frequently come up is? Do you think it's a simple fact that it's just because we're losing, or do you think there are other people to blame? And if so, and if it's Tomlin, why would you say he's earned this reputation amongst the NFL as being a guy who's good at managing egos? Because I've seen a lot of other people in media say that he is.
All right, so I realized that halfway through that question that it's the same question. Shout out, I appreciate you. Must have recorded twice. The first one got cut off. The second one was good. I'll talk about Mike Tomlin's ego real fast. I think Mike Tomlin is really well respected around the league. I also think he keeps guys in control pretty well. Like Deontay Johnson's a great example. Antonio Brown's a great example. There are a lot of names out there that you could toss out and say this is an issue. I just think that he's good at some cases. He's really bad in others, and it's never even across the board. And some guys are more dramatic than others. Antonio Brown was a severe case, and you saw what happened once he left. But I don't think you ever get that case again. But there have been other names in the past that I've heard about, and I'm not going to call anybody out, but there's been some issues, and there's been some guys that Mike Tomlin can't control. And I think he does deserve respect in that aspect. I don't think you could overlook that Mike Tomlin really does have his stamp on controlling guys a lot of times. It's just hard to control dudes. And I also think egos and everything else are getting bigger by the year. Social media is playing a massive role here. The growth of media is playing a massive role here. I think it's a bunch of factors. I get where Tomlin's coming from. I think that he kind of deserves respect to a degree. I also think that, it doesn't work out, and it works out better if you win. If the Steelers are a winning football team, you're focused way less on the problems and more so on the winning. But the fact that they're losing and there's problems, just they add up, and now there's nothing to focus on besides the issues, and the issues become much larger.
Hey Noah, Clavic690 here, or you can just call me Tony. Been a Steelers fan a long time, grew up in the 70s. That's how long it's been. My prediction for the draft, I want to get your opinion on this. I think, knowing Tomlin, Kahn, and Feigl, that first round they're going to go defensive line. I wouldn't put it past them to go with Walter Nolan or Kenneth Grant. Maybe double dip in the second round with a Darius Alexander, and then the third round, then they'll go for the wide receiver with a Ty Felton or a Lacey. Tell me what you think.
Yeah, I'm all about it, to be honest. I like defensive line. I think that the trenches are never a bad move. They're a boring move, but they're never a bad move. Look at the Philadelphia Eagles. You want to beat the Kansas City Chiefs? Don't let Patrick Mahomes do anything at all. Build that defensive front. The Steelers have pieces in Alex Highsmith, TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, and Nick Herbig. They have Keanu Benton, who's developing well. If you could add 2 more massive names there, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you try to do that? I mean, you could score as many points as you want, and you need some wide receivers, but I wouldn't be opposed to signing a veteran, waiting later in the draft, keeping George Pickens, and then bulking up your defensive front in the NFL draft. I wouldn't. I think Walker and Grant are massive names. I think that they have huge futures in the NFL. I love Darius Alexander in the second round. I think that is a great name as well. You could go deeper with names like Ty Robinson out of Nebraska, who's a massive human being who has future upside to be a starter in the NFL. There are names. I'm not opposed to it. I like the idea of going defensive line in the first round. I like the idea of going defensive line in the first 2 rounds. I don't think you could ever go wrong building the trenches.
Hi, it's Doug B. calling to ask about who our best running back option would be in the next season if Jaylen Warren sticks around. Would we be going for a rookie? Would we be going for extending Najee? Or would we be looking at someone else? Tell me why your choices are what they are, and look forward to hearing from you. Bye.
Shout out. So I think Jaylen Warren returns to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Jerry Dulac says original tender, just about $3 million. I feel like that's a good place for him. You bring back Jaylen Warren. I think Najee Harris has some negotiating to do, but I also think he's going to get offers from other teams. If he doesn't, I could see him returning to the Pittsburgh Steelers. If he does, I could see him leaving pretty smoothly, pretty quickly. I think Najee is on the outside looking in, but I wouldn't rule him out. Then I'd go NFL draft. I think the Steelers are going to love this draft class. I'm not 100% sold that they're going to go running back super early, but I am pretty sold that they're going to go running back, that they're going to like this running back class, that they're going to look at guys like Caleb Johnson. They're going to look at guys like Judkins and Henderson out of Ohio State. They're going to look as deep as, RJ Harvey out of UCF later in the draft, Ollie Gordon in the middle of the draft. I think they're going to look at all those names, see all of the talent in it, and try to find somebody who could be the future starting running back of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't think they go out and get their starter, but I think they get their future starter in the NFL draft. You could look at some names in free agency. Raheem Mostert's an interesting name that maybe comes in as a third. You could look at Rico Dowdle, who is a pass-catching option, who could be maybe a bigger Jaylen Warren, I guess. I don't think he does as much, though. I'm not as into him. But I would guess NFL draft is their way. Maybe a veteran, but I would imagine it's Jaylen Warren, potentially Najee Harris, and then a rookie.
Mr. Berg, Strackinator, potato salad.
First
off, love the streams, love the videos. Everyone watching like. My question, when I see film of Broderick Jones getting beat, they seem like such simple technique things. And I understand he was a raw talent when we drafted him. That's the only reason he was available to the position we moved up to draft him. But you see him standing straight up at the point of engagement. It's not issues in terms of athleticism of getting there. It's getting beat when he is there.
Yep.
That to me is a glaring fault of Pat Meyer, but Zach Frazier and the other youngins have none of the same issues. What would you do differently with Broderick if you were the offensive line coach to hammer down some of these basic fundamentals for him on the coming season?
It's a great question. I would focus. I think the finish, just like you said, I think the finish is where the issue is for Broderick Jones. It is not the athleticism. It's not the potential. It's not the raw talent, although he is raw, but I still think his talent level is good enough to make a solid impact in the NFL. I think it's the finish. I think just like you said, once he engages, it's almost as if he's not how he's supposed to be. He's not lined up or in an athletic stance the way that he's supposed to be. He gets beat in leverage. I'm sure that there are a million ways to go about that in practice. But also, I think him being more natural on the left side could help this. I'm not using that as an excuse. I'm not. I think after 2 years, you should be pretty focused on one side. But I also think that if you spent your entire career playing the left and you've spent 21 years of your life playing the left side, and then for a year and a half, you played the right side, your left side's still probably going to be a little bit more dominant. I think when it comes to Frazier and guys like McCormick needed to grow in terms of talent level that he was facing. Frazier was pro ready. He was a guy that came in here. He was ready to go. You know, he could have started he did start day one, but he could have started on 32 teams day one and wouldn't have been an issue for any of those 32 teams. I don't look at Broderick that way. I'm hoping the left side allows him to use that athleticism more. I'm hoping that just feeling more comfortable allows him to get down and stay and hold leverage on guys. I'm also hoping that, the right side is a different situation from the left. The left, you're moving more. You're being more athletic than the right side. And I think that helps a ton, to be honest. Like, the right side is a power blocking side, which is where he thrives, but he is super athletic. And I'm hoping that being on the left side only helps that situation. I don't know what you could do in practice. I'm sure there's a billion little drills that you can do. I don't necessarily blame Pat Meyer for it. I'm hoping naturally it comes with a different look and different needs at a different position.
Hey, Noah, it's Maddie. I've been in your show a lot lately. I
Shout
just
out,
want
Maddie.
to say thanks so much for all the content. My question is, what quarterback in free agency is better than the one we had on our roster? I don't think Rodgers is it. Wilson has burned that bridge.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold is going to cost way more than we're looking to spend.
Yep.
And you'd really take a chance on Daniel Jones after what happened in New York. I get part of it wasn't his fault. Like, the O-line there wasn't great. But what other options do we have at quarterback? Why are they dragging their feet? I understand that, they take forever, but you would think that with all the buzz of, this team, that team is looking at Fields, they would want to get a deal done before free agency starts, because once his offers come in, I won't blame him for leaving. So, I don't know. What are your thoughts? What do you think?
Shout out, Maddie. Always appreciate you calling in. When it comes to Justin Fields, there is no better option. There isn't. Sam Darnold would be great, but just like you said, he's going to cost too much money. You could look at Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson and say whatever you want about upside or Super Bowls or whatever. Justin Fields is the only guy where the Pittsburgh Steelers are at a place where a year ago they were willing to take a shot on Kenny Pickett and say maybe he's the next franchise quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. A year into his run, we were going into the season saying if Matt Canada doesn't stink, which we were all optimistic and it didn't work out. If Matt Canada didn't stink, the Steelers Super Bowl window was open. It wasn't. Kenny Pickett wasn't the guy. But I think the same holds true for Justin Fields. If Justin Fields comes into Pittsburgh, he's not a rookie. This is not a rookie quarterback. This is a guy who gets another opportunity. Everybody was talking about the Minnesota Vikings as a potential Super Bowl champion, a team that can compete for a Super Bowl in 2024 with or without Sam Darnold. Okay, if the Steelers put everything together, which they're not, I don't view the Steelers as a Super Bowl team in 2025, not where we currently stand. But if they put everything together and they are this dominant force, Justin Fields could be good enough to get them there. He could be good enough to make them a competitor or a contender. And dragging your feet makes no sense if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. He is the best option. Long-term and right now, he just makes the most sense. There is little gap, little variation between going after an Aaron Rodgers and saying he can win us a Super Bowl today and believing Justin Fields can win a Super Bowl today. I think both of them are pretty even in ground. Why they haven't signed, again, I explained that earlier. I think that it's a little bit of both sides, but there is no argument against not keeping Justin Fields outside of money.
Hey, Noah, this is Kevin, a.k.a. Carl Spackler in the chat.
Carl.
First off, I want to give a huge shout-out and congratulations to you and Nick.
Appreciate
really
you.
love what you guys are doing and excited to watch you to continue to grow.
Thank you.
Got a question for you. There's a lot of rumors going around with the Steelers, what we're looking for. A lot of beat reporters, a lot of people in and outside of the organization. What's it like on the inside? Is there a lot of cohesion? Like, as people inside the organization, do they have a cohesive message and goal that they're all going after? Or is there maybe some infighting and you've got a few different important pieces that are kind of pulling different ways for the direction of the organization? Obviously, only so much I know on my end, so I'd love to hear your input. Once again, appreciate all you guys do. Thank you.
Shout out. Appreciate you. And everybody else. That's a great question. We've had some bangers in this show today. This is awesome. Great show. Right now, there's some cohesion. There's somewhat of an understanding of where the Steelers would like to go, the direction they'd like to go in certain areas. There's also some alternative thoughts, I'd say. There are some who believe Russell Wilson should be the guy, some who believe Justin Fields should be the guy, some who believe Aaron Rodgers should be the guy at quarterback. I think that when it all comes down to it, there are really only three people who get any say in the matter, and that is Mike Tomlin, Omar Khan, and Art Rooney II. That is it. And I'm pretty sure they're all somewhat on the same page where they are at quarterback. In other situations, should they trade George Pickens? Where should they go with Minkah Fitzpatrick, TJ Watt's extension, so on and so forth? I think it's pretty collective how well or what everybody thinks in the building. I don't think there's much pull on certain areas. I don't think there's a lot of people sitting around saying, if you trade George, I'm leaving. I'm gone. That's the worst decision you can make. I think it's pretty even across the board. I also feel like there aren't that many people that get a say in the matter, so they don't even voice their opinion. There aren't a lot of people that get to say who the quarterback is. There aren't a lot of people who get to say what happens at wide receiver. There aren't a lot of people that get to say what happens at offensive line or defense or trades or extensions or so on and so forth. A lot of coaches just coach. That's their job, and they understand that. A lot of people in the front office there are a certain number of people that have some opinion, but their opinion doesn't stand tall enough. So there is pretty much cohesion between the big three, the big four, if you add Andy Weidel in there. And I don't think that there's much pull from outside noises to go in a different direction. So where we currently stand, I think everybody's pretty much on the same page with most situations and most scenarios, most positions on the team. Quarterback, I would imagine there's some conversation, or I believe that there's some conversation, but the big three are all on board for the most part and just trying to decide, where the lines are. How much are they willing to give to Justin Fields before they have to go to Russell Wilson? Is Russell Wilson definitely the number two? Well, let's have a conversation about Aaron Rodgers. All that's happening, but it's all more so just dialogue to figure out where the board is and how everything sits and where they're willing to adjust before they dive into negotiations and tactics and stuff like that.
Hey, Nick and Noah. This is Grayson the Ginger, your boy from Northeast Tennessee. And, guys, I am at work, bored as hell. I work by myself, doing some crazy shit, selling buildings and whatnot. Anywho, so guys, I was just sitting here thinking, and man, we are all the same age for the most part. I think I mentioned in the show the other day that I'm 28.
Yep.
And, guys, do you ever just sit back and think over the last few years, especially, that we were absolutely spoiled with the Ben Roethlisberger era, excuse me, sorry, I can't even talk, of football. Seriously, man. I swear, Ben Roethlisberger is probably the most underrated guy in the history of football that I can think of. And I don't know if it's because his early problems that he had in his career, but seriously, if you look at his stats, he was top 5 in everything when he retired. Touchdowns, yards, everything. And I went back and watched his highlights the other day, and dude, he was Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes combined before they were even thought of in the league. Anyway, just wanted to give a shout and say that you guys help pass the time here at work, and I appreciate everything you do for the Steelers.
Shout out. Appreciate you as always. Definitely appreciate you. Appreciate all you guys. Hope you're selling some good homes, dude. I hope you're making some progress selling those homes. When it comes to Ben, dude, I agree. I think they had one of the most dominant defenses in NFL history, and because of that, people overlook Ben's greatness. It happens all the time. But the Steelers were like everybody at the end of Ben's career. I see Shannon Sharp do it like once a year. He blasts Ben Roethlisberger or Mike Tomlin or the Steelers as a whole, saying, "I can't believe they dragged that out." What do you mean? He was their best option. If Ben Roethlisberger returned to the NFL today, I take that back. If Ben Roethlisberger played another season in the NFL and the Steelers decided they're moving on, that would be the worst decision they can make. You don't move on from a Ben. You don't worry about Ben dragging it out too long. Tom Brady played until he was 45. Why? Because he could still win a Super Bowl at 45. Ben still gave you that best opportunity. That's how I look at Ben Roethlisberger. That dude, we were all spoiled for Ben. We were all spoiled for the run that he gave all of Steelers Nation for a long time. And he deserves his flowers. You know, he really was. The Steelers should have set him up better late in that run. But to be honest with you, on the other side of that, like, it's a great example of how Mike Tomlin's defense was not good enough. And maybe that's where you turn the attention as to why weren't they that great when the Killer Bees were that dangerous? Well, the defense wasn't very good. The defense had some struggles. The defense wasn't able to get over the Tom Brady hump. And I get it. The Tom Brady hump was crazy. You know, it was like beating Patrick Mahomes right now. It was nearly impossible. And I understand that. But it wasn't Ben at the end. It wasn't. It was everything around Ben that wasn't good enough. And the Steelers didn't do enough to put it into perspective. Ben played 1 year into what the closest thing the Steelers were ever to a rebuild, which is when that offensive line was just atrocious. That's where Ben went to. And that's because the Steelers ignored rebuilding that offensive line forever and dove into it in 1 year and said, we could fix it. And they couldn't. So there's a billion factors that go into that, but I agree. Ben deserves his flowers. Every single day he deserves his flowers. All right, guys. With that said, we are heading out of here. I appreciate everybody for calling in to episode 2 of the AST call-in show. This was a blast. I'm loving that we're getting more. I'm loving that the character's coming out. I'm loving that you guys are enjoying this as much as I am, which means episode 3 next Wednesday is only going to be better. Make sure to check out our membership page on YouTube. That's where you could become a member, call into this show, email me questions so that I could give you guys a call. I've been making calls every single day. We have literally, I'd say 110, 120 emails at this point. So appreciate all you guys trying to make my way through it as quickly as possible. You guys could get a phone call from me to answer questions and give you guys a little bit of an inside scoop. And then on the other side of that, you could call into this show, become a member, the whole nine. We appreciate you guys. We'll be back later today. Until then, find all of our work at youtube.com/allsteelerstalk. Check us out wherever you get your podcasts. And all of our written stuff is at si.com/NFL/Steelers. We'll see you this afternoon. Peace.